Ignite 2025, it did not disappoint, right? I have just one word for Ignite, which is AI, 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 and more AI, right?
What?
You know. So that's what I mean, listen, it's not a bad thing. That's where the world's headed, and what a great place to have, which is San Francisco. And it's funny because San Francisco is a very tech advanced city. I mean, there's AI embedded everywhere. Omar and I took Waymo for the first time, and
Amos, yeah, that's pretty
that
cool.
was a freaky experience. Like, calling a cab without a driver, right? And getting in, and it actually even jumped a yellow light. So I was like super confident about it actually doing, a good job driving because it drove like a human, which is crazy, right? But let me ask you. Let's start this. What was your biggest takeaway from Microsoft Ignite this year, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, Amal, thanks for the invite. Great to be
Yes.
here and in this format. Love working with you and the Crucial Logics teams for the last couple of years. I was thinking about that now,
Oh,
probably,
it's
right?
been and
Just
actually introduce yourself, because you know what? I completely jumped the gun here. So please
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead and
okay.
introduce
I'm
yourself.
like an
Yeah.
employee of Crucial Logic. So, for everybody else, my name is Neil Warwicker. I'm a partner solution sales manager in the modern work business at Microsoft. I spend a lot of time working with our top resellers across North America, specifically in the SMB segment. So, for majority of you all, Microsoft sort of considers that, generally speaking, 300 seats or less. But really, my entire role is to help advance the Microsoft cause with our S&B partners like Crucial Logics, and I've enjoyed doing that for the better part of 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was quite a week. 22,000 strong. I think it's the second largest conference that San Francisco holds behind our friends at Salesforce, who are
True.
locally based there.
Yeah.
I think that the theme beyond AI was just the personalization of AI, and also a lens towards our SMB business. I mean, Microsoft has traditionally always been thought about as this big enterprise behemoth, and then the small business was sort of an afterthought. I think we're seeing the lens, especially again with AI in mind, pointed towards that SMB segment like never before, and that's an exciting opportunity because at the end of the day, I think AI can be done quicker, adopted quicker in the SMB segment, which again is super exciting. So big things that kind of came up, a concept called Work IQ. So really, in AI, rather than just Q&A, what's happening in what we call now Work IQ is this idea that the tool becomes familiar with you, your individuality, your memory, your organization's isms. And of course, that leads to much more personalized results and much more sort of direct and very specific outputs when you are using it.
Right.
We agents. I mean, you can hear a lot beyond Copilot. I think those are the two buzzwords. And if you got your bingo done, you probably broke one a couple times during the Ignite.
We did.
But a couple things on agents. I mean, we now are talking about agents in apps. And specifically in the productivity apps. So if you think about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, the ability now to actually start launching those and asking in chat to create, hey, can you create me a PowerPoint on this topic? You do that from chat now, and you can create some pretty incredible stuff. So, a single point reference in
Yeah.
chat to open up in there. On that though, like agents becomes a little bit sticky sometimes, especially for the SMB customer. So
Yeah.
how do you manage those? And so I think about like Agent 365, which is now a new single pane of glass to help SMBs manage, understand, regulate, shut them off, shut them down, and ultimately expand. But quite frankly, all of this was great. The thing that for me, again, covering our SMB segment, was the launch of the Copilot Business SKU, which is
Yeah.
essentially the same thing the enterprise gets, but for a substantive discounted price. And I think we're going to expand upon that
Yeah.
here in
We
this
we are.
discussion here. But super
And
excited for that.
I think we're going to expand on all three of those topics, and I also want to talk about Copilot for security for
Hmm,
Copilot, and now
huge.
it's part of E5, and that's a major announcement. Omar, were these the same takeaways for you? Work IQ, Agent 365, like what was your takeaway?
100%. I concur with Neil.
Mhm.
Obviously, agents were top of my list when attending Ignite, looking for a better way to manage them, and Microsoft delivered. First of all, thanks everyone for joining this new style of webinar, podcast style. My name is Omar Abadi. I'm CTO at Crucial Logics. obviously work with Microsoft team as well as Crucial Logics and our customers to deliver the latest and the greatest Microsoft technology. So yeah, back to the agents. Obviously, that was a gap when we started delivering Copilot since day one at Crucial Logics. And I think what Microsoft put together is pretty good as we move into a technology where agents have their own identities, right? They can actually perform tasks in computers with that Windows 365 Cloud PCs agent. So obviously, it gives us a lot of flexibility and IT operational management, especially from AI governance.
So let's break this down a little bit because I thought that that was an interesting way of looking at agents, right? Because we know as a security company, first and foremost, that this advent of agents was going to be that that next challenge for our customers to overcome, right? Like it's the exact same way. I mean, you described it quite well when we were at Ignite, Omar, that this is the same shift that we went through about 8, 9 years ago now in the middle of our careers, where there was a shift from on-prem to cloud, and then there was this massive transition without really thinking about security, and then security started popping in, throughout the conversation that was peppered in. Eventually, now it's foundational, right? So I think that's the step that's Agent 365 is taking, and the easiest way for me to describe Agent 365 was thinking of agents as their own identity. And just the same way you govern identity and users in your organization, now you have this Agent 365 platform that actually adheres to the same kind of policies and purview policies and Entra ID policies and defender policies to monitor its behavior. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. Neil, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think what I think about there, again, going back to, for an SMB, it's this centralized place where you can manage all this.
Yes.
Because like rather than going to this, that, and everything else to try to figure out what's going on, you're going to get this view that really can help you. And look, the excitement behind AI has also sometimes resulted in some exposure of some bad behavior. Like who has access to create agents and what are they sort of doing with them? And what this is going to do is give, like, especially our IT folks, a place to go to actually make sure that, hey, these are being used effectively, correctively, accessing the right stuff. And then, quite frankly, like when you start seeing agents that are working, like how do you go and do more with them? Can you make the agent more robust? And so it gives, again, that usage parameters and the usage information, which is super critical because, like, an agent that is just sitting dormant, I mean, like it's just a risk piece really more than anything else. So it's an opportunity to hit the old trash can and get rid of it. So I really like where this is going more than anything else.
No, absolutely. And it's funny that you talk about like agents doing the work. Omar and I were invited to the M12 event. Which was a small set of people that were invited just outside of where the convention center was for to showcase all the startups that are being built by or funded by Microsoft around AI. And then there was a startup, and I forget the name. I'm gonna go try and look for it, but they literally are building agents to do tasks such as legal counsel. Right? Yeah. Tasks where repeatable tasks where it's an agent that would create a statement of work, right? And things like that. So, we were looking at it and going, it's really the agents are actually almost taking humanistic identities, right? It's and at the end of the day, if they are taking humanistic identities, we do need to treat them as if they are true identities and govern them, basically, just like we do with a regular identity.
And I think one thing to sort of say, maybe just to back up at a high level, what we sort of talk about at Microsoft, and I think what organizations can benefit from directly, there's two sort of premises that we would say, like if you're sort of in that foundational place of AI, your AI journey as an organization, there are two sort of big things to be thinking about. One is the personal productivity side of things. So that's your Copilot, like your AI assistant for you. And then agents is, how do we attach your most monotonous, dare I say, frustrating, boring business processes? How do you make an agent go do that for you? So I know sometimes with all this conversation, people get a little excited and maybe don't know where to start. But if we just really simplify it, that's the premise of where we're going. You can't really do one without the other, and you can do one. You can start with agents and go to personal productivity, but it is important to remember that you kind of need to do both in an organization to see things happen, and we really do empower that now at a foundational level with our tool sets.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Omar? Yeah, 100%. Obviously, the way that we look at agent these days has to be in a way like we secured identities and applications for years, right? So, and there's just a shift right now to the AI. And I can tell, like, in the early days of the Microsoft Cloud, which I've been involved, there was a lot of intent to build applications to deal with XYZ tasks, right? And that's pretty much what we're doing right now with agents. We're looking at automating those tasks, not only providing the application, but actually being able to automate that whole task around the application, right? And as Neil mentioned, the Copilot chat, the personal productivity, that's me managing my day-to-day work, right? With Outlook, PowerPoint, and all that. And then specifically to the business or my department, if I need a task or an application that needs to be automated, obviously the agents will come in here and play a big role. And the ability to also make a difference between obviously third-party agent and Microsoft native. So that agent policies will allow us to make a difference and then be able to allow the access or not. And what I see very important here as well is that there's pre-built policies from a security and governance perspective as well, right?
Yes.
So Microsoft can tell us this agent it's risky or not, and then based on that, IT folks can make a decision, to allow it or not. So that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, I just shared a link, and if you actually just click on the security aspect of it, it has the same policies that you could apply to a standard user, like detection and response, runtime defense, data security. So I think we're taking that next step towards realizing that agents are here to stay. We need to govern them, we need to secure them, and Microsoft's enabling that, so, which is great. Right.
And if you look at like where we're going, and we have this notion, and you may have heard this sort of in the broader tech community, called frontier firm, like a frontier firm. And a frontier firm really is one that's, at the bleeding edge of this AI movement, and where we see organizations really transforming to, and where agents plays an incredibly important piece. And we're seeing this already. Is it happening a ton in our sort of like small medium business segment? Not necessarily yet. But we're coming fast. I just actually saw something. It's only been 2 and a bit years since we launched, and only like 3 years since ChatGPT even was a thing. So if you think about where that was a test and where we are now, it's incredible. But yeah, like on frontier firms, one of the key components of it is that if I'm a manager in a business, I may actually have 2 or 3 employees working for me, but I actually may have agents as part of my workforce actually on my org chart, because we can position them with identity and purpose, lock them down. And so like, as we think about fast forwarding, another 12, 24 months, the hope would be that, every organization represented on this call today would actually be thinking about, hey, how do I put an agent in to either supplement or completely expand on my business capabilities and have it report to a manager? It's a crazy concept. It sounds awfully futuristic, except it's not. It's very much a present day, type statement.
I can't wait to replace myself with an agent. I'll be honest with you. Right. So moving on, work IQ, right? That I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, the way it was presented was it's your organizational data, it's the memory and the interface kind of, all combined in one. So it will, the Copilot will now get its grounding from your organizational data, which it always did, but then the whole memory aspect where it will now draw inferences based on the history and the chat and your behavior and things like that, and then it will actually provide to you in a nicer interface. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, just imagine having a much more personalized piece of technology that can go do this stuff. I mean, I think everybody sort of can recognize when AI is being used to post things. Look, I'm as guilty of it as anybody. It sometimes is easy to not modify. But what you're getting slowly but surely is like internal vernacular that might be just exclusive to your organization now becoming something that can be referenced as you create a document or as you create a PowerPoint. It becomes a better experience because it can infer better. It can remember what you said in a chat or a meeting, months ago, right? And I guess quite frankly comes back to an issue that was talked about heavily around like security, yes, but the data governance piece, of course, because all of these tools draw upon your data. And if your data is not particularly well organized, clean, up to date, et cetera, this does put a strain, quite frankly, on the output. But very, very cool. And again, the evolution of like sort of the graph semantic index and now into work IQ.
Yeah. No, I just put a link on for work IQ and also for Agent 365 in our chat there if you guys want to check it out. I think this does become an advantage for a lot of organizations because listen, I mean here the reality really is that 99% of the organizations are grounded in Microsoft. I mean, I use that word a little bit lightly, not grounded as an AI grounding, but just their foundation is Microsoft. Uh, Majority of the organizations that we deal with, right, they are all on pure Microsoft solutions.
Yeah.
And when you're now comparing between Copilot versus ChatGPT Enterprise versus Anthropic, like it's great that all these other models are now available within, are starting to
Correct.
become available within Copilot. But now, if you think about it, the value of Copilot is where it now has your organizational data, and hopefully it's governed correctly and labeled correctly and managed correctly. But once it's done that, the work IQ to actually take that data, store it in memory,
Mm.
and give that back to you. I don't think there's anything else out there that would beat that. I mean, if anyone else on the on in the audience has had a better experience in terms of not just I'm just not talking about chats, but actually getting organizational data properly organized and fed back to you using anything else other than Copilot, I would be super interested in knowing. But I think that's where this work IQ is headed, is actually making that easy for Microsoft's clients. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, as a Vicky, what Graph API did for us, accessing the environments, with PowerShells and all that, it's what I see right now with this, Work IQ, and that will give the Copilot or any, obviously agent chats, will the ability to build contacts around what the user need, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just one little tie up there on that is that, and this is the inherent need for organizations to if they haven't begun, or if they're beginning, if they're kind of a couple of steps in, to go faster, is that the ability to have work IQ at essentially the desk of every employee of your business is super critical. It will turn them into a much more productive employee. I mean, we know just foundationally, turn on an AI tool. This is super important. It will increase it. It's already happening. Just transparently, I mean, if you don't have an AI policy in place, it doesn't matter. People are still using it. This is why it's important to get out in front of it and have real conversations around, hey, what is being done? And then, hopefully you're going to adopt, Copilot because of, first and foremost, its security posture out of the gate. But again, giving, the clerical clerk that's, a part-time worker, access to Copilot with memory allows that person to do their job more effectively ultimately. And that's, I think, a super important piece, that you can pick up productivity beyond just Q&A that is better, in a much richer way.
Oh, absolutely. And then that brings us to the next topic, which is in-app experience, which is interesting, right? Because before you had to pay $30 per user per month to actually get Copilot embedded into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. But now that's kind of changing. Now you're getting that without that license, right? So you have Copilot Chat, and then you have in-app experience. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few pieces to this puzzle, and I mean, I think, look, if you were an early adopter of Copilot Chat, we called it like Biz Chat Enterprise. We called it a few things transparently. We had a few ups and downs with our branding on this one, but if you're using present day Copilot Chat, the thing that we announced just a couple months ago was in-app abilities. So essentially, we know that the vast majority, I would assume everybody on this call, has Office 365 of some flavor, either business or enterprise. And so what we've done now is taken that Copilot experience and allow you to essentially hit the little Copilot button in all of the apps you use today at zero cost. What does that mean? That means you can create a PowerPoint from a Word document that you have open without actually having a Copilot license. And you can do something called contextual grounding, which means that if you have maybe a large PDF open or a large Word document that you want to summarize, and it could be important information about your organization, maybe a financial statement, you can actually at the free level, just to be clear in this again, because I know this is a new thing that I've lost a few people on. You will be able to ground against the document that you have open at that point in time safely and securely without Microsoft seeing it or without any risk of it being used to train the large language model. And
Yeah,
that's a game changer. Now,
it
what
is.
does the paid, because the first question that comes, hey, Neil, I don't have to buy the paid one anymore. Woo! Thank goodness. No, understand that what we're doing at this point in time is we're essentially using localized, like contextual grounding. So it's going to see the document that it's looking at, the Teams meeting that it's looking at, the PowerPoint that it's looking at, and the internet and the web
Yep.
to, sort of find answers. What it's not going to do is actually access your graph. So your internal organizational data. And so this becomes why you need to unlock with the paid subscription, the other stuff. But again, to be clear, enterprise data protection, so you don't risk any data loss. Microsoft doesn't see it. We don't train the large language model. And you can do all this sort of good stuff in the apps that you already have for $0 cost. So if you don't have an AI strategy tomorrow morning, that's what you do to turn it on and make things start happening.
Well, I mean, to make it simple, it's basically the scope for that in-app AI is limited to that document only, right? Like it's not going to go and inference something that's that you said
No.
6 months ago and then build that in, because my Copilot that I use to query all the time in terms of what was the last meeting between me and Neil, it goes back all the way like 6 months or 8 months ago when I first started Copilot. So that's not what it's going to do. But that's interesting, because I think that's it's interesting because Copilot Chat, is a great replacement for people using just consumer version of Chat GPT.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now this gives them that additional flavor to just try it out and see, if taking that next step is in fact something the organization wants to do. So,
super important to recognize, and we did a study, and we repeat it every year, something called the Work Trend Index. We can pop the link in there, and you can do it year on year. Essentially, we do a study across the globe. About 31,000 people is the rounded average, in 31 countries. So I always tell people it's not like a bunch of Microsoft fanboys standing outside of the global headquarters in Seattle. This is truly a representative of things. And what we know is like 89% of people out there in the workforce, for sure, are using a AI tool. What's really challenging is still 2 years plus after we launched here almost, that a vast majority of them are using shadow AI tools. So they're using, DeepSeek, they're using, Claude, they're using, and there's nothing wrong with the tools, just to be transparent. It's what the risk associated with using them is. So they do train the large language model. They don't have governance around where your data goes. And so people without using Copilot Chat, which eliminates all this, potentially are just feeding the model with all of your intellectual property and stuff like that. Again, at $0 cost, the one thing you can do to secure your organization and begin the journey of a full, frontier firm, if you will, is to bring Copilot Chat to the forefront and make that your A-play AI tool. And then obviously work with you guys to figure out how you expand that safely with paid subscriptions.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
100%. And I think it's a great addition for, entry level, getting to the, Copilot chats. And then it's user centric as well, help users with their tasks built into the app itself. And as Neil mentioned, it's safe. I mean, in relation to, if we're looking at the AI governance in general, we are still dealing with data that is within our tenant, that is, compliant with Microsoft rules and regulations. And, instead of having, the consumer version of chat, the users can easily transition to this and make sure that, they get their productivity going.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. The next topic, I'm actually really excited about this one because, as a security person, Microsoft announced that security for Copilot, right, is now part of E5. And there's a couple of nuances with it, right? The nuances are that for every 1,000 users, they are going to give us 400 SCUs. And SCUs are basically the compute, units that it uses. I mean, we have a backstory when security for Copilot. Is it Copilot for security for Copilot was introduced? Omar was trigger happy, and he decided, hey, I'm gonna add 3 crucial logics, right? and keep it running. And it's expensive. It was like 3 grand a month per yeah, whatever the unit,
Yeah.
right? And we got stuck with a $24,000 bill, and our finance was like, "What the hell? Like, where did this come from?" And then Omar had to open a ticket with Microsoft, and we were able to resolve it. They were kind about it because there was a lot of confusion around it. But I'm excited about this because I mean, I know that there hasn't been a great adoption. I'm just going to be honest. I know you don't want to hear that, Neil, but you can close your ears on this one. There hasn't been great adoption on security for Copilot, but there is a there is a great possibility that there will be adoption, and the reason being, it does pretty cool stuff. Like if you actually think about what it does from a security for Copilot perspective, there's a security triage agent. So you know how when people report phishing, on your Outlook, rather than like we get that a lot internally as well, and then our managed services teams gets that a lot, because we do train our clients and their end users to report phishing so that we can look at the thing and then report it ourselves or block that email and email address and stuff. So if you look at our ticket volumes, a lot of it, I would say 25% is a lot of people from our managed services clients reporting it. But if the report phishing, now this agent can pick it up and look at it and say, is this actually a false positive? And if it's a false positive, I'm going to take all these actions that a regular agent takes so that the workload on my managed service team in this mediocre task goes lower. The other thing is Purview triage agents, right? Like when Purview triggers a DLP policy, like it can actually action that DLP policy and say, hey, this seems like a real positive, false positive. Then the agent can go in and say, yeah, your inference on this one was correct. Let's go ahead and take that action or train that agent. So over time, even conditional access optimization agent that it has, right? I think it has a really, really solid, I would say, use case. It's just a shame that it hasn't been adopted as widely, but I think this new, this new announcement will. So, as an example, an organization with 1,000 users will get 400 security units. So if an organization only has 400 users, it will get 160 security units versus an organization that has 4,000 users will get 1,600 security units. You can always buy more, but you can get started with this, more than anyone else that has done it before. Your thoughts, guys. Omar, I'll let you go first because I know you're, you were the one that costed us pretty much. Right? Exactly.
Yeah, that was for sure a good learning experience. And at Crucial Logics, we always obviously consume our own dog food. So when technology comes out, we go about and test it and deploy it internally. And as Amol mentioned, it gives a pretty good, I would say, added value to our managed service teams because it can do a lot of things that currently we have our team members doing, and they can focus on more important tasks. And one of the examples is when I was doing the testing when it came out initially, we have an incident, and it gave me a root cause analysis email, and that was amazing, right? It's the details that it went through, and this is again was a couple of years ago when it first came out. So for sure, I see a lot of value with this opportunity, especially with the licensing now that it's integrated. And organization will see, the adoption of this, and then the integration with the Microsoft tools related to security. So you got the Defender stack, right? So it's all part of that Intune as well. So definitely, I see a lot of opportunities on this front.
But Neil, before I let you go, you know what it's actually doing? It's actually widening the gap between all licenses and E5. Now that E5, it comes with so much that the conversation about E5 is becoming easier and easier because it comes with Defender for Endpoint, it comes with Entra Plan 2, it comes with inside risks and all that good stuff. So and now with this whole security Copilot, it's just unreal. Like I think that gap between all the other licenses in E5 it just widened as a result of this, right?
So yeah, and I think what you're speaking to, Amol, and it's super important. Look, at the end of the day, Microsoft, we're talking about AI crazy, but foundationally, we are a security organization first. Yeah. And I think that is super, super, like our decisions, like if we have $1 to invest, we will invest it into security before we will invest it even into AI. And I mean, I think sometimes it's not necessarily the fanciest, most exciting conversation, security. Security is not going to make you that PowerPoint that you're going to impress your boss with. but it's super foundational to who we are. I think to your point though about moving this in, one, I'm not there where this is a super SMB friendly offering yet, but bringing it into E5 is going to change that. And I think that speaks to, we just talked about the fact that the free version of Copilot is now having access to apps. If you weren't familiar and you've had maybe Copilot for sales or service or finance, what we refer to as role-based Copilots, those have now been basically rolled into the paid M365 Copilot at no additional cost. So what you're seeing is more and more enhanced value into these core offerings, which I think is, again, the differentiation. You know, sometimes out there in the marketplace, we sort of get into a feature square off, right? We're going mono versus our friends at Google or another tool. Maybe here and there we can line up the check marks, but then usually we will separate, and it's typically in the likes of security. And I think this is a classic example of it. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a huge thing, especially again, if you're obviously north of 1,000 seats. It makes a ton of sense.
It does, and it's just great that actually the focus on security. I mean that the one of the questions that I had for you guys was what was the most surprising announcement, and I think to me that was the most surprising announcement.
Right? I agree.
What was it for you? Was there anything else that you thought was, you didn't expect that from Ignite?
No, I think that like from an announcement perspective, that was good. I know we're going to touch on the B SKUs here in a second, because I mean that was something that I felt like was coming, but then when it launched, I think it's beyond my expectations. So excited about that. But I think from a pure a functional capability, putting that out there for a customer that's especially of a moderate size, like in that medium tranche, if you will, I think that was super substantive. So really like that.
Omar, what was a surprise announcement for you?
Well, again, just giving folks access to those capabilities, I think that was like everybody touched on here. It was surprising to me to the level that they got to. That's also very, I would say, significant, right? So, given that AI capabilities to this market segment is also important.
Oh, fantastic! So I have the only 3 power slides that I prepared for this. It's just so that we could actually visually talk about this, because this was one of the other announcements that came out of this. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me just do that right here. So share screen. Perfect. I promise that there won't be any PowerPoint slides, but it's important for us to have these ones. So I'll kick this off. So traditionally, you had your Microsoft 365 Copilot, and over the last year, I think what Neil mentioned, the Copilot for sales and finance and all that has been rolled into this middle SKU that you see right here, which is Microsoft 365 Copilot, $30 per user per month. The prices are in US dollars. Then you had this Copilot for chat. So for people that don't want to use this, but still want the benefits and protection from using a sanctioned AI versus having your users go to a unsanctioned consumer grade third-party AI that's actually collecting your data, the Copilot for chat is the right solution for you, right? But then now, Neil, I'll let you chat about this new SKU that was announced.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the changes, right? And what we recognized is that for the customers that I get the pleasure of supporting every single day, that SMB customer, the business premiums of the world, people always get excited about because of the incredible value, because it's a business specific SKU, with like sort of enterprise capabilities in it. And we sort of looked at the market and said, hey, we need to do something for the SMB customer again, but within Copilot. And so literally yesterday, we launched M365 Copilot Business, which is available for users, again, only up to 300 users for, again, that $21 USD price point. Super important off the get-go. This is literally the same SKU. There is no difference. So you're not getting anything different if you're an ME5 customer at Coca-Cola with like, tens of thousands of Copilots. It's the exact same one that you would have as an SMB customer. This again is only available though if you're sub 300 with like a prerequisite sort of B SKU. So that's your business basic, business standard, business premium.
Yep.
And then Amol, you want to roll forward.
Yeah.
So I think that this is what really got me, and we have a double down on this too. But we also said, hey, like, this is a great price at $21. But the market is sort of saying, like, give us like a single offering, like an all-in sort of offering, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we put together some bundle offers that actually make this even better. And so you can see on screen here that, by having Business Standard and Copilot together, it'll cost you on the regular $33, Business Premium and Copilot $43. So, like, again, like that's a really good value if you think about that. The Copilot on its own is usually $30 USD per user per month. You can get a sense there of the value. And then the thing that really got me is this, and this isn't like, I cannot emphasize to everybody on this call, for us to do this, I think I needed a double take on this. The pricing you see on the screen already with the bundles and that ERP line at the top there, that was already good. But we've actually, effective yesterday, put these promos, these brand new promos on sale for incredible savings. If you look at Business Standard and Copilot, is only $22 USD per user per month. Just for perspective, essentially, if you're on Business Standard right now, that's about a $10 ad to get full enterprise Copilot, essentially. And you can see that, the move to Business Premium and Copilot for $32. Keep in mind, again, Copilot, $30 per user per month. You can, again, do the math on this. It is incredible that we did that. And I think, Amal, the thing that you probably got really excited for is not only did we put this out there in the marketplace, but we gave people an extra incentive to specifically address, like, data and governance and optimization by putting the Purview suite on, which addresses so much of the AI conversation. We put that on promo too. I don't know. You probably want to expand on that there, but this,
we've been
phenomenal.
The Purview suite, when it was announced, actually eight months ago now, right? 6 or 8 months ago. I think that was an exciting thing for business premium customers, because you had, the only option that you had was E5 compliance or E5 security at that point, right? So Purview suite was great because we use a lot of that for AI governance projects, because we've been doing tons of them where we kind of marry Purview, Defender for Cloud App, and Defender for Endpoint kind of together, to govern, sanction AI, hopefully Copilot, and then unsanctioned third-party AI, right? So this Purview suite is basically phenomenal, and I know there's a few clients on this call right now that are in flight, and this couldn't have come at a better time in terms of the promo, right? So this is fantastic that we are doing this. I
think what's really important, Mo, in this now, and I oftentimes come across, organizations of every size, like 7-seat businesses. And again, 1,500 seat, I get the privilege of traveling a fair bit and literally getting in front of folks. Look, I think what we have here now with these M365 Copilot business offerings and these promos specifically is an ability for an end organization to sort of say, okay, we need to begin our AI transformation, or we've sort of started it. And yes, Crucial Logics, we want to do more, but we're not too sure where to go. I mean, the reality now is, if you have done nothing, like if you are just waiting for the moment, I'm going to challenge that today is it. What you're able to do now, and we, broadly speaking, don't say, hey, if you're an organization of 100 people and you don't have Copilot going right now, don't go buy 100 of them, even though they're on sale. It's a great deal. But put a pilot together of specific users in your organization and go figure out maybe some business cases and some business processes you can build an agent or two around, and do some paid seats for those folks. So let's just play this out for a second. That again, in that 100-seater, maybe you get 10 users on a paid seat with full access to Copilot, whether it be on Business Standard, Premium, or the other offers. But then do me a favor, is that the other 90 people in that organization, don't leave them high and dry.
Right.
Put them on Copilot chat and allow them to access their documents, prompt against them, summarize things, and build capabilities. You can do an incredible amount of stuff with the paid version, and you do it safely and securely. So now you actually have the ability in time, addressing your data governance, to expand using these bundled prices, reducing your cost, and doing it again safely and effectively. This is how we accelerate our growth in SMB. And I mentioned at the top, I believe firmly that an SMB customer is the customer that can go do this AI journey effectively. And you know, as
100%.
much as it pains me, and you'll have to buy me lunch again, Amol and Omar, you know, you guys are the perfect partner to help address this stuff here. So, you know, I would invite everybody to have a serious look at doing this and expanding their footprint, because again, AI is not might need to do or should think about doing it. It's a business imperative, quite frankly.